What's up, everybody? Welcome to Red Sox Weekly on BostonSportsRadio.net. I'm Ashish Sharma with Brian Roach, and it's an all-star edition of Red Sox Weekly. Today will be the Home Run Derby, so we've got a little bit of first half thoughts for you guys. At the break, Brian, the Red Sox own the best record in the American League. Who saw this coming? I mean, they're 58-39, 2.5 games ahead of Tampa Bay. Everyone thought they were going to be basement dwellers at this time around, the all-star break, but they've really proven everything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's really been starting pitching. The coaches actually communicating. The bullpen's been pretty strong. They've gotten a lot of contributions from their bench. Mike Carp, Daniel Nava, who wasn't expected, main outfielder, main third outfielder. He is. Victorino's been great when healthy. A lot of great signings. Uehara and everyone else who's contributed. Johnny Gomes has had many clutch hits, walk-off home runs. And yeah, it's been really good. People have been healthy for the most part. There's been some bad luck with Clay Colts, Lester struggling, but yeah, it's been a great 97 games. So
I can't do quick math off the top of my head. Whatever 58 plus 39 is, it's been that many games.
97. It's 97. So yeah, it's been a great sight. It's been bringing fans back to Fenway. Well, for the most part. So.
Yeah, no, obviously they've been winning with offense. They've been winning with pitching on most nights. They've had their struggles in the starting rotation with John Lester and Ryan Dempster hitting some inconsistencies here and there. Most recently against the Seattle Mariners, and obviously their bullpen's been a total mess all year, with certain exceptions. But yesterday you saw again some of their starting pitching go to work. I mean, Brandon Workman was making his first career start at the big league level for the Red Sox, second appearance, and he took a no-hitter into the seventh inning. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at a guy with such a small sample size, it's a little, despite nearly throwing a no-hitter, it's a little too small of a sample size to say, oh, this guy's the real deal. But I was really impressed with what I saw. I mean, 6 1/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 Ks. They ended up losing, and he got the no decision, but I think, some of the guys, the young guys that we've seen this year, like, Alex Wilson and Brandon Workman and guys like that, and I know Alan Webster got roughed up in his last start, but some of these young pitchers have shown some promise.
Yeah, I mean, Workman, he'll be like a back end of the rotation guy if they keep him, or a long relief. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the stuff of like a solid pitcher. His fastball's around 91, 92. He has a pretty good over-the-top curveball that he was using a lot to keep the ace hitters off balance. But yeah, after that hit was allowed in the seventh inning to Coco Crisp, it looked like he kind of unraveled a little bit. He left one up, and Josh Donaldson took it for a ride. He took it straight center field, and Donaldson also had the RBI single off of Thornton in the 10th inning. Wait, was it the 10th or the 11th?
The 11th, I believe.
The 11th, yeah. So Thornton, his first appearance ended up being a loss, but you can't always win them all. So.
Yeah, no. As you mentioned, that really, to quote Will Ferrell from Anchorman, that escalated quickly. I mean, it really did. I think he was throwing a no hitter, and then all of a sudden it gets broken up with a play up the middle on an infield single, and when Pedroia can't make the play defensively, it's a legit infield single.
Yeah.
So, you couldn't give him an error on that. I mean, it was a totally non-routine play. And then the very next hitter, as you said, 2-run home run. But, yeah, I mean, I was encouraged by what I saw from Brandon Workman. I'd heard the name, but I'd never seen him pitch. I think the one relief appearance that he made earlier in the year, I must have missed that because I don't have any recollection of actually watching him. But, I was pretty impressed with what I saw.
So.
Yeah, I think I missed that one. But I knew that he had pitched. So I did like what I saw from him, and hopefully we will see him in some capacity in the second half. Staying with the pitching, I want to now move on to John Lester, who is showing subtle signs of improvement. I mean, this is a guy that has had a very weird season, so to speak. I mean, he got off to a really hot start. He was in the early Cy Young conversation. I know it's kind of weird to start talking about Cy Young in May, but when you saw the start that John Lester and Clay Buchholz got off to together, we were like, man, these guys could go at it together, and maybe one of them take it away. And then all of a sudden he hit June, and it was just, he fell flat on his face. And he had so many bad outings, but recently he has shown through subtle changed mechanics and things like that. They were showing it on Nesson, while he was pitching. They were comparing it to how he was pitching earlier and showing how his delivery has slightly changed. And I think you've seen some of the improvements. I mean, on July 3rd, he went 7 innings against the San Diego Padres at home. Got a no decision, but he went 7 innings, gave up a run on 6 hits, and struck out 5. July 8th, he went 5 innings and gave up 5 runs against Seattle and took the loss. Here's the thing, though. He pitched well through the 4th inning, and then in that 4th inning, that's when things started to unravel for Jon Lester, and that's something that I'm looking for him to kind of build on is, we've talked about this. When something goes wrong, focus, refocus, and don't let it bug you. I thought he was pitching well up until the 4th inning, and that's when he gave up 2 runs and then another couple runs, and then he ended up leaving after 5 innings and giving up 5 runs. But then on July 13th, he went 6 1/3 innings and gave up 3 runs on 6 hits against Oakland in his most recent start in a loss. So he has shown that he is starting to climb out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Lester is one of those guys who, if he starts to unravel, he'll unravel, or like he'll get himself into jams, then get out, or he'll give up the big hit, and then he'll have to be taken out. But he's a great guy to have at the top of the rotation. He won't complain like if something's physically wrong with him. He won't miss a start. He'll go out there, he'll battle through it, and it might be three or 4 runs, but that's still enough for the Red Sox to win with this offense.
Well, Brian, it's interesting you say that because, I mean, while I do appreciate the effort for guys fighting through injury, it's almost like they're doing the team a disservice by not speaking up. I mean, I don't want you to go out there and pitch if you're not going to be able to pitch at a high level. I mean, that's what we were talking about with John Lackey a couple of years ago, where he was just grimacing and going out there. If you're not going to pitch well, then speak up and say that. I understand that some guys want to be the hero and things like that, but if he's really hurting, and if that's what's going on with Jon Lester, although I don't think it's a case of being hurt or injuries or anything like that, because he has kind of shown that he's coming out of it. Again, we've talked about his workload. He's pitched, I think, more pitches in the American League than any other pitcher, and second only to Clayton Kershaw in all of baseball, with 2,135 or something pitches. And he's averaging 106 per game, so maybe his workload needs to get scaled back. I don't know, but I'm hoping that this is sort of a sign of Jon Lester sort of reviving what was an early success in April.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can bounce back. Maybe he'll get a longer break with this All-Star break coming up. Maybe they'll push him back and see how that goes, and maybe start the Yankees with Lackey as the number 1. So.
Right. Yeah. No, he could use a vacation. That's what he was talking about. But let's talk about Felix Doubront now. This is a guy who, I mean, it's kind of the inverse of Jon Lester. He got off to a slow start in April and into May, but recently he has been arguably their best pitcher behind John Lackey.
Yeah.
John Lackey's obviously been the biggest surprise for the Red Sox, no doubt. But Felix Doubrant's right there. I mean, he has 11 starts this year with 3 or fewer earned runs, 2.54 ERA in his last 8 starts. Which is a 3-1 record over that time. He has 10 quality starts this year and 8 starts with 6 or more innings of work. So Felix Doubront has a 3.91 ERA on the year, but had it not been for that rough start in April and into May, he could have had a much better ERA and maybe more wins.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some tough luck with the Red Sox offense and with bullpen issues, but yeah, he's been pretty solid. Has 11 straight starts with 300 runs or less. Is probably it's a great stretch for him. And it starts with 6 or more innings of work. He went 8 innings. He should have gotten the win, but Bailey came in and Bailey? No, it was Bailey came in and blew a save for him, and that was the closing opportunity Bailey got. So
right.
Yeah, it's been.
Yeah, no. The thing with Felix Doubront is, to be honest, I didn't know what we were going to get out of him this year. He came into camp out of shape again. This was the 2nd straight year that he did that. Got off to a slow start. I said, okay, this is a guy that we placed a lot of value on. Maybe he's just kind of going to be this mediocre 3-4 pitcher. But I mean, now the way he's pitching, if he can go into the second half and replicate the success that he's had over the last month and a half, then you know what? Maybe it makes John Lester a little expendable at the end of the year. I'm not saying they'll trade John Lester. That's not an option. But he is a free agent. They do have a club option worth $13 million on John Lester, the Red Sox do. And if you have Felix Doubront, who can show you that he can be a left-handed power pitcher that John Lester is in the same rotation, do you really need John Lester back for that much money if he doesn't show any sign of improvement? I say
Yeah,
no. I say no.
I mean, Lester, I don't think he'll be too expensive, like, because, I mean, he is a hot commodity because he can start in the big leagues, have a quality start, which is 3 earned runs in 6 innings, and that's good enough to be a 2 or 3 starter in the American League, even in the National League. So I don't think Lester will be too expensive, especially if the Red Sox want him back once his
Oh, I'm
contract
not.
is
I'm
up.
not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't want him back. But
Yeah,
when you're talking about 1 year for $13 million, the way he's pitched this year, I don't know if you do that if you're Ben Cherington.
yeah, I would say you sign him for more years, less money. That's what I would do. But
That's what I would do too. But speaking of the GM, Sherrington made a trade recently. He acquired Matt Thornton, a relief pitcher from the Chicago White Sox, for Brandon Jacobs, who is a minor league outfielder. I believe he was in Double A, and
no,
they
he's in
got.
AAA.
Was he in Triple A?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm not sure, but I know he's a minor league outfielder, and he was one of their top-rated prospects. But he was traded for Thornton and cash considerations. Brian, was this a good trade?
I think so, especially with Andrew Miller going down. They need another lefty out of the pen to go along with Craig Burrell. And the cash considerations helps a ton because that will help pay. That will likely go to help pay his contract for next year because he still has 1 more year under his belt if the Red Sox want to have that option. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like when Andrew Miller went down with that injury, it looked pretty severe, and then we found out that he was going to require season-ending surgery. I said, that's a real bummer because Andrew Miller was a big part of this bullpen this year, and this bullpen's been pretty bad, but there have been some bright spots. Obviously, Junichi Tozawa, Koji Uehara, Andrew Miller was having a good year. Early on, he had a problem with the control early on with the
yeah,
walks and everything, but he really turned it on as of late and was really impressive out of the pen. So yeah, I thought absolutely you need to get some depth in the bullpen. That's why they went out and got Matt Thornton. And I don't think Sherrington's done. I think he's going to strengthen the bullpen if the right deal comes along. If there is a guy who he feels can strengthen that middle relief core, and it's not going to be too much to give up, then I think he might make another move.
yeah. I mean, there's also the talk of Michael Young, and I don't want to bring Michael Young in. Maybe trade Stephen Drew to Philadelphia and either have Michael Young play third, or if a trade doesn't get done, they can't just have the tandem of Holt and Snyder playing third base. They need someone who can play that position every day, and
Right.
it's either Michael Young or Will Middlebrooks. Like, I mean, it's after the All-Star break. Middlebrooks hasn't shown like that consistent, like, but he's hitting his 260, 270 and he's been hitting home runs and driving in RBIs. So I mean, either you bring him up or bring in Michael Young, who's a great defensive third baseman and can provide a decent amount of offense. So
Yeah, no, I've always been a fan of Michael Young. Obviously, he's not quite as young as or productive as he was when he was younger. But yeah, no, Michael Young is a steady bat. He's a good glove at third base, and you need a lot of production out of that position. Usually when you're talking about third base, you're talking about a guy that's
especially in
usually
the
can hit
American
for average
League,
about a guy. Yeah, so that's
American
why
League's the
my hope
toughest.
is that we will see exactly, and that's why my hope is that we will see Will Middlebrooks back here with the big club, hopefully by September. But he has to prove that he can do it in AAA first. And he had that insane stretch where he had like 4 home runs over 2 games with 9 RBI, 10 RBI, something like that. But since then, he hasn't really done much. So third base is going to be something that Ben Sherrington will probably be looking at the deadline. But he's going to be very careful with the moves he makes because the Red Sox have a good thing going right now, and maybe you don't want to alter it too much. So it'll certainly be interesting as the trade deadline approaches. We're about 2 weeks away from that happening. Another guy I wanted to talk about, and we were just talking about bullpen depth. Stephen Wright came in for an incredible relief outing the other day against Seattle when Ryan Dempster exited early after getting absolutely rocked by the Mariners, which is kind of funny when you talk about the Mariners in that offense, but it happened. And Stephen Wright,
Yeah.
the knuckleballer, who everyone's comparing to Tim Wakefield all of a sudden, except his knuckleball is a little faster because he's a little younger. But he came in 5 2/3 scoreless innings of relief in an 8-7 win. I mean, how awesome was that?
It was phenomenal. I mean, he didn't strike out too many. He didn't give up many hits. He didn't walk too many. His knuckleball was dancing, as they say. But no, that was a very offensive-minded series. I mean, Red Sox won 8-7. They won 11-8. Like, it was more. I thought it'd be pitching,
Mhm.
like a pitching series where like it'd be
Yeah, I
close
thought so.
games, but
With Felix Hernandez and John Lester, I thought that was going to be a pitcher's duel.
yeah, and then the Mariners rocked Lester, but
Exactly. So yeah, no, I mean like when you're talking about a guy like Stephen Wright, and obviously we talked about Brandon Workman earlier. When the roster does expand in about a month and a half, when we get to September and we get the 40-man roster up here, I think those guys are going to be very valuable. Those are almost like trade deadline acquisitions when you bring those guys up and put them on the 40-man roster and have them
oh yeah,
available out of the bullpen. I think you're going to see those guys, and I mean if Stephen Wright can continue to shine like that, I'm looking forward to it. You know, the Red Sox need to survive the rest of July and into August and kind of wait for that expansion of the roster and to get to the playoffs.
yeah. I mean, recently I actually just heard this today. Aceves was removed from the
Hmm.
40-man roster
Yep.
because of his issues, his injury per se. That's what he's calling it, but the Red Sox don't see anything wrong, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see how that story develops. I read about that earlier today too, and I guess we'll get more information in the coming days on why Aceves was removed from the 40-man roster
Yeah,
exactly. So, and one thing that I did want to touch on, this is not a Red Sox related story, but this is just incredible. Grant Balfour of the Oakland Athletics, he has 41 straight saves, dating back to 2013 when he recorded 23. And this is tied for eighth all time for consecutive saves. I mean, this is a guy that if you're a team that's trailing in the ninth inning, you don't want to face him.
yeah. I mean, he's been solid. He just replaced Bartolo Colon on the All-Star team, so uh, hopefully he gets into the All-Star game because maybe he can get number 42, but it's not technically. It doesn't even count. But
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, this is a game that does count for something, which, again, like, you'll send me on some kind of rant if, you have me talking about the All-Star game and how stupid a concept that is. But for a team like the Red Sox that is contending for a playoff run, last year when I was watching the All-Star game, I was like, you know what, I really don't care this year because
yeah,
this team is not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're going to end up in the, basement dwellers in the American League East. This year, I'm like, okay, we got to win this thing. We have a chance to go to the World Series. So, obviously it's nice to have Grant Balfour on there because, I mean, obviously he will be facing a team of all-stars, a lineup of all-stars, but like you said, hopefully he can make it an unofficial 42.
yeah,
And, although
yeah,
Mariano Rivera, yeah, there's this guy named Mariano Rivera who is in his
yeah.
last
Very
year.
true.
So, I think if we do see Grant Balfour, it won't be in the ninth, just out of respect. I think you might see him in the eighth inning. And I think just out of respect, you got to give it to Mariano Rivera in the ninth.
Yeah,
So, all right, let's keep moving here. And you have an update for Clay Buchholz, correct?
yeah. He pitched a bullpen over the weekend, and what they're saying is that he needs to pitch another bullpen, maybe have a simulated game, and then a rehab or two. And they say like the earliest his return date will be is around July 27th, 28th.
Mm,
And
okay.
I mean that's a long time away. Maybe the first week of August is when he'll likely be back if there's no setbacks. And it'd be great to have him back. It's like having a trade deadline deal,
There you go.
but it's your ace, your 9-0, 1.71 ERA ace. So
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, we thought that we were getting Clayball. I thought he was initially when he suffered the injury. I thought he would miss 2 to 3 starts. He'd be back by late June, and then
Yeah.
obviously this thing just kept, compounding. And we've had another setback, and he didn't, throw as well in his bullpen, and this thing is just taking such a long time that I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back in like mid-August. I know they're giving him a timetable of July 27th, 28th, but he's got to do rehab assignments before that, and didn't he just miss one, as you said? So it wouldn't surprise me to see this get delayed further.
Yeah, I mean, it really is tough to say with someone like Buckholz, who basically um, like is very like dealing with nagging injuries. So I think he'll be back on schedule, but you never know with this guy what will happen. I mean, it was his neck, and now it's like his back. So
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure we'll all be following that, obviously. Now with the All-Star break, it'll give the Red Sox a chance to kind of reevaluate him. I think he is at Citi Field for the All-Star festivities. He has a trainer with him, so I'm
yeah,
sure we'll get some updates on him from there. Now, speaking of the first half coming to a conclusion, Brian, I want to know, who is your Red Sox MVP at this point in the season?
I would have to go with Dustin Pedroia. For the main fact that he's missed only one game, and he's putting up huge numbers, 315. He only has 6 home runs, but 55 RBI. He's hit a ton of doubles. He walks a lot. He makes great plays in the middle of the infield and makes it look easy with a torn ligament in his thumb. So.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I remember, and that happened on opening day too against the Yankees when he slid in the first. Yeah, hard to argue with that one, but just for the sake of arguing, because it would be boring if I just picked Pedroia to agree with you. I'm going to go with David Ortiz. This is a guy who missed the first 2.5, 3 weeks of the season. We didn't know if he was going to lose a step with that torn Achilles that he suffered a season ago. He's hitting 317, 19 home runs, 65 RBI, and an OPS over 1,000. I mean, if he hadn't missed those first 2.5 weeks, who knows? He might have 24 home runs right now.
Yeah.
So I think you take that thumper out of the lineup with David Ortiz, and he's just been such a catalyst. And with him hitting fourth, with Pedroia hitting third, I really like that combination of contact hitting with power hitting. And you look at David Ortiz, I think he's a better hitter today than he was in 2004 or 2005 because he's hitting for average. He's hitting the all fields. He's changed his approach. He's not trying to kill the ball. He's not trying to pull it all the time. And that's really translating well, and he's using all fields. He's using the monster.
Yeah, he does it in batting practice.
Yeah, he goes into batting practice with an approach. He's like, okay, I'm going to start pulling all these. I'm going to hit these to straightaway center, and I'm going to hit these to the other, to left field. And it's really shown in his average over the last couple of years. He's been hitting for average. So, hard to argue with Pedroia, but like I said, I want to pick David Ortiz just to disagree with you. So
don't forget, David Ortiz also is 4th in stolen bases on this team.
Yeah, that's true. He has, 3, right?
Yeah, I think he has 4.
Oh, there you go, 4. Well, yeah, we don't have a team full of...
and he has 2 triples.
We don't have a very fast team. Yeah, we don't have a very fast team when you're talking about, like, Jared Saltalamacchia and Mike Napoli and David Ortiz. I mean, the young, speedy guys like Jacoby Ellsbury and Victorino have been pretty much carrying the load, although Victorino's not young. He's just fast. But when we come back from the All-Star break, if you're John Farrell, obviously, we've been talking about John Lester and how he struggled. I think coming back from the break, if you're the manager, you have obviously a 3-day break in between, and then when you're resetting the rotation, wouldn't it be in John Lester's best interest to maybe get pushed back a little bit further? When we talked about his workload and just mentally he might need a couple extra days. You and I were talking before the show that maybe Lester starts third after they come back from the break. Maybe they go Lackey, Dubront, Lester, Dempster, and maybe Webster after that.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll recall Webster to have pitch that 5th game. Maybe they'll stick with Workman. But yeah, I think you need to put Lester either 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in the rotation. Once you come back, then you rework it from there. I mean, they have that off day after the first 10 games. They have an off day, so you can rework the rotation after that too. So They start the second half of the season, the unofficial second half of the season, against the Yankees, the Rays, and then the Orioles. Um, the Yankees and Rays are at home, so those should be not. I'm not gonna say easy to win, but it's harder. It's harder to lose those types of games than win at Camden Yards against the Orioles for some reason for the Red Sox because they have a terrible time at Camden Yards. So
Exactly. Now, jumping back to the All-Star game as we conclude our show here today, Home Run Derby is tonight, and I'm sure, like any baseball fan, we'll be really excited for the first half of it, and then we'll kind of get boring in between. We'll get bored, and then we'll kind of get interested back in it when it's down to the final two. Who wins it tonight?
I have to go with the newly added Pedro Alvarez. I mean, some of the candidates tough to choose, like Bryce Harper, Yoenis Cespedes. I don't think they'll do good. Citi Field's a big park, but Pedro Alvarez has hit huge home runs this year, so I think he'll be able to handle the pressure, I guess you can call it, of the home run derby.
Sure. Yeah. No. I think for me, I'm gonna go with Chris Davis. The guy's a monster. He's got 37 home runs. I think he's. I haven't done the math, but I think he's close to being on pace of breaking Mark McGwire's home run record for a single
He's on
season.
pace for like 60 right now.
What's that?
He's on pace for 60 something.
Okay, so he's gonna fall short, but still, I mean that's pretty incredible. And obviously there's concerns for guys coming out of their swing during the home run derby, and I hope that doesn't have to happen to Chris Davis. I understand he's in our division and he can be a threat, but as a baseball fan, he looks clean. I think this is good for the game. A guy that can, absolutely crush the ball. It reminds me of what we saw during the steroid era, but except if this guy's clean, this is awesome. So
hopefully he's clean.
Hopefully. I mean, I want him to get tested, and I want to find out he's clean because I love guys that can absolutely kill the ball like this. So I'm going to go with Chris Davis.
Well, he could be on the biosis report and all those people get suspended, but
I would cry if that happened. I actually do like this guy. So
yeah, he's pretty good, yeah.
Now let's end on this note. You and I were talking before the show, and we were like, we got to throw this in there. The Red Sox could have sent more than 3 guys to the All-Star game this year.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2008, they had 7 guys go, including J.D. Drew. And this year, there were quite a few snubs. You want to go ahead and list out who you think got snubbed from the Red Sox?
Well, what I officially think, I think Lackey should be on this team. He had better numbers than Verlander. I mean, Chris Tillman's a great guy who replaced Verlander, but Lackey, coming off of Tommy John surgery, 7-6, ERA under 3, and he's been phenomenal. Ellsbury, great leadoff hitter. He's been solid lately. He has an average over 300. He's leading the league in stolen bases. He has a couple walk-offs. And then Uehara, he has an ERA under 2. With only an 89-mile-per-hour fastball, and he strikes out like everyone. So, and Nava was like a bridge guy. I mean, he's a great switch hitter. He was on the brink of making the All-Star team, which would have been great since he was an equipment guy not too long ago. So.
Right, no, I agree with you. I mean, Lackey, I think, absolutely deserved to be there. Uehara could have gotten in through the final vote, fell just short on that. Ellsbury, despite the fact that the power numbers are not there, I mean, he's still doing a lot of the other things. As you said, he's wreaking havoc on the base paths, leading the league in stolen bases. He has an average over 300. He's playing stellar defense in center field. So I think, I mean, Adam Jones and Mike Trout, obviously, they all deserve to be there. But I think if they could have found a way to get Ellsbury on that squad, I think he did deserve to be there. And then obviously, like you said, Nava has been fantastic. Has been one of the most productive outfielders. I mean, yes, he's not, again, a Mike Trout or a big name or anything like that, and I think that's hurt him. But his OPS is pretty high among outfielders. At one point, he had, I think, the 4th or 5th best OPS among outfielders. So
yeah, and he's had many clutch hits throughout the season, like several home runs in the early part. He had that walk-off single the other day. So go-ahead single the other day. So.
Right, and I think, Brian, part of it was the fact that, he just wasn't on the ballot to begin the year. Johnny Gomes was. Yeah. And I think that hurt him. So, hopefully, if Nava's still here next year and he can replicate these numbers, maybe he'll be on the ballot instead. So. All right. So let's wrap up with this All-Star game
Yeah.
tomorrow night. Who wins it, Brian?
Uh, I would have to go with the American League because I mean they have a lot of flamethrowers going. They have probably the best lineup. I mean, no, no fighting over the National League, but I mean, I think the American League has more of a home run minded lineup, where the National League has Carlos Gonzalez, Bryce Harper, Troy Tulowitzki, Brendan Phillips. They have a solid list of guys, but I think American League finally wins it after 2 long years of not winning it. After they won like so
Yeah.
many in a row.
They won like 15 straight at one point. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm going to take the American League on this. And obviously, with All-Star games, it's just so hard to predict who's going to win it
Yeah,
versus. I mean, both teams are stacked. Let's be honest. They've both got great pitching. They've both got decent hitting. Obviously, the American League has a little bit more power hitters than the National League. But when you're talking about picking one team to win, literally just a one-game series, it's really hard to just say, oh, this team's going to win. But like we've seen the American League dominate in these games for the last 15, 20 years. They won like so many, as you said, in a row before losing back-to-back years. So just based on that and just based on a little bit of personal bias, considering that we both grew up watching American League baseball for the most part, I'm going to take the American League tomorrow night. So
yeah. I think it's weird that the DH is in this
I
part,
do
but
too. I do too. It's one of those weird new things. And as we've talked about in the past, Brian, I think that's something that we're going to see in the future is the National League adopting the DH. It's going to happen at some point. So
hopefully,
we'll
because we need one set of rules. Like every other league has the same set of rules.
I agree.
Football, NHL, NBA, it's all the same rules. And
I
then
agree. Like
baseball,
let's go with that. Like it's one of those things that I'll just never understand. It's like, come on, it's 2013. Let's get.
don't you enjoy the double
It's
switch?
no
Come
longer
on.
1950. Exactly. All right, so that's pretty much our show, our Red Sox Weekly on BostonSportsRadio.net. Thanks for watching. He's Brian Roach. I'm Ashish Sharman. We'll catch you guys next week. Enjoy the All-Star game, everybody.